Looking here today at the new Larry Carlton Sire guitar, made by Sire, which was, as I understand, Marcus Miller. This guitar is a great value. It's great sounding pickups, really nice finish, a beautifully finished off heel block there for comfort in the upper register, and it's just a beauty. I really like it. The frets are finished off really nicely on this guitar, and the setup is going well, but I have one problem with it that I want to show you that is actually something I find on a lot of guitars, particularly the Asian made guitars like this one. This is a definite Epiphone competitor, especially at the price. You can look up the prices at the Sire, that's S-I-R-E, Sire Guitars website. And the pickups do sound excellent. That's one of the things that I really like about it, is that you do not have to replace these pickups. This is not the kind of thing where you have to buy an Epiphone or an Epiphone Les Paul and replace the pickups with a set of Duncan Pearly Gates. No, I wouldn't replace these at all. Everything sounds really good in this guitar. The back is just a beautiful beveled back. Look at that, man. That's really a beautiful piece. The neck doesn't feel like a Gibson, but comparing it to the Larry Carlton Gibson 335, I like it a lot better because the neck is not so thin. This neck has a thicker feel to it than the Larry Carlton Gibson 335, which Gibson doesn't make anymore, by the way. But that neck just seemed to be so narrow. I don't know what the difference would be, but I know the feel is definitely different. This neck is more comfortable, actually. But it doesn't quite feel like a Gibson 335 neck. You can tell that it's not a Gibson 335 neck. That being said, it feels more like an Epiphone neck. But that being said, dollar for dollar, I mean, this is a steal. You're getting a tremendous value. Now, right out of the box, this guitar had a pretty good setup on it. The only problem I found with this guitar's setup was the nut. The nut was too high. It's a nice bone nut, but it's just too high, especially for the intonation in the lower register. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I am in the middle of the setup right now. I've got the truss rod adjusted. Everything is set for that, for setting the intonation. The action is right where I want it. I've got about 70 thousandths at the 12th fret at tuning at the high E, and at the low E I've got about 90, between 85 and 90 thousandths. That's good low action. I've got the truss rod really straight. I mean, there's hardly any relief in this fingerboard, and it's playing great, but the nut is too high. The action's too high in the lower register, and when I lower this, it's going to also affect the action here, so I'm going to have to recheck that again. But with the action straight in this area, it's too high up here, and I'm going to show you how you know that. And this is a problem that is detectable most often with the G, the third string. So I've got it, the intonation. I had to set the intonation a little bit with the G strings. I had to take the saddle back because it's playing sharp, which is a common thing with the Tune-O-Matic bridge, especially on Gibsons. Go down here to the A note on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and look what happens. Look how sharp that plays. See that? 12th fret. And there's your C fret, D fret. And notice as I get lower, it starts getting sharp. That's because the nut is too high. So I'm going to take that nut down with my nut files. And I've done this for so long that I can actually check it by eye. I don't use any gauges for this. I just take it down till it feels right. Someone says, how do you know when it feels right? When it feels right. Now, there's plenty of good demonstrations online for these pickups. You can just type into a YouTube search window, Sire guitars, Larry Carlton H7, that's the model this is, Larry Carlton H7 Sire guitar, and demo, and you're going to turn up about 4 or 5 tubes where people have already taken and experimented with the pickups on this guitar. Some of them are comparing the pickups to the Epiphone guitar, and so there's plenty of sound checks out there, and they're all good. Everywhere you look on online for sound demonstrations, it's great. This thing also has an Ebony Fingerboard, which, I mean, it's a real Ebony Fingerboard with a bone nut. I mean, this is really quality. So let's check it now. Put the 12th fret. And the A fret. So now it's playing on key in the lower register. So we're going to go ahead and take down these other strings and work on the setup from there. Now I've taken down the nut for strings 6, 5, 4, and 3. I haven't done the E and B yet, so I wanted to show you the difference. Let's take a look at this. Look how much lower the strings that I've filed the slots out for compared to the factory depth. Look at that difference. That's a huge difference, and lowering the action too in the lower register just makes the action uniformly lower all the way up the fingerboard. It certainly makes playing things like open chords much easier in that lower register. Much better action there, and certainly a difference in intonation. So now that I've got all of the nut slots at the right depth, and I've got them also beveled. They weren't beveled out very well to begin with, so we use these StewMac beveling files for that. Next thing is we're going to smooth these slots out. Now that I've got it all set, I've got the truss rod adjusted, I've got the intonation set, the action's right where it needs to be, all up and down the fingerboard. Everything is going great. Now there's one more step, and this is what we do at Folkstone Guitars. We take care of all of these details. This is all part of the general setup that I do on any guitar that comes in. That it will include lowering the nut to make it play much easier in the lower register, and polishing the slots out. Now this is the way we do this. We take 1500 grit sandpaper and go like this. Just fold it, get in those slots, and just sand them out just a little bit. Doesn't take much, just a little bit. Okay? And then the next thing is we're going to take this Novus 2 fine scratch remover, and this is great stuff for polishing a guitar, removing gunk from a fingerboard. This is really some great stuff. I advise any of you that got several guitars and you want to keep them cleaned up to use this stuff and not use all of the polishes that are out there. Use this because it does not leave a residue. It wipes up like Buffer's polish. It's really nice. It can also take virtually all of the scratches out of a pick guard if you use it right, if you buff with it right. It can take nearly all the scratches out of a guitar top and a pick guard. So I take a little bit of this, and I've got some here in the cap already, just a little dab. And if you got a fingernail, you can do this. I've got fingernails on my right hand, and so I just go into the slot like that and buff it out with the Buffer's polish. It makes the nut nice and slick all the way down, all the way across. Makes it nice and slick. Just polish that out really good. And you don't want friction in that nut. You want it as frictionless as possible. Okay. I'll tell you, that's a nice ebony fingerboard there. Beautiful. Nice guitar. It's hard to say enough good about this thing. I mean, you can't beat it, especially for the price. All right, then after that, I take some of this stuff that's, I guess it's called ketone line guitar lube. Now, there's a lot of these available. There's a nut sauce that's available. A lot of people like to use. This is the stuff that I use. And it has a little applicator that comes with a packet. And I just take and put a little bit on here, just a little droplet. Just a little droplet. Not much left in this bottle. I've used quite a bit. It's always good to have backup. All right, a little bit on there. And then I just take and put it into the grooves like that. Keeps them nice and slick. Makes tuning a lot smoother. Gets rid of a lot of that cricking that goes on with a nut. And then I wipe off the excess across the top. And then put the strings back on. And let's test it out. And that's the way it should look with the slots nice and beveled, which I achieved with these StewMac nut beveling files. They're beveled. So this is just one of those things that a lot of factories don't do. And it really helps. And it makes the string a lot slicker in this slot. It just lays in there a lot better, more evenly. It looks better. And this nut lubricant that I've been using really helps the slots to be nice and smooth. So that's the kind of lubricant that I use and I recommend. I don't know about the others, but that's what I use for that. And also the hardware, all of the hardware is checked and tightened up on a guitar when it comes in. And things like the jack, for example, use one of these jack tights. And it's got a bushing here in the center that opens up. It expands as you tighten it. So you put it in there, not all the way, just a little bit. Tighten up on that nut. And what that allows you to do is hold the jack from rotating while you tighten the nut. Works very well, by the way. Works nicely. So now the jack is tight. This is what's involved with the setup here at Folkestone Guitars, getting all the hardware tight. I have one of these EXPs tools for checking the switch. These round nuts, you need to grab them with something that's got a little teeth on the edge like that. You don't want to use pliers on something like this. You want to use a tool that's actually made for it. So she's all set up and ready. Both pickups. Oh, the action's sweet. And this down here in this lower register, you know, you hit it like an A. Intonated beautifully down there. G. Sounding pickups. This neck pickup, man. Great Great sounding pickup. Both pickups. Bridge pickup, man. Love the sound of this thing, and pickups have a really nice. I'm just running through a solid state system here because I like the clean when I'm testing out guitars. So this is not a tube amp. Through a tube amp, this thing would be awesome. I mean, it would be really killer sounding, and there are some good videos demonstrating it through some tube amps online. You can, in fact, I'll try to put a link to some of these in the comments. Great guitar. The pickups have that. You put both pickups in the center position. You know, both pickups together, the switch in the center position, and you hear this nice kind of jangly, chimey sound. That's how you know you've got a good wide range set of humbuckers. Great sounding guitar. I highly recommend these.